I guess getting ready to go to work here. Um, Listening to Kyle Kalinske just speak in regards to the best and the worst possibilities of Trump being reelected or Joe Biden taking the presidency. I like to look back at old videos. I don't know if that sounds weird. I like to look back at old videos sometimes. I'm not talking about Michael Brooks. Just like I guess just seeing like how fucked up things have gotten, how some things got better, some things got worse, whether it be COVID, and just kind of like remembering how I felt at the time. Look, um, he wasn't talking about the worst case scenario for Donald Trump presidency, which is kind of self-explanatory. If you're a leftist, there's possible violence. He's gonna have have like Gestapo force, and we all saw that Trump had a lot more support than I think a lot of us on the left thought would happen. I think a lot of us believed that most Americans didn't like Trump, and that's kind of not been the case. That I guess fascism sells for Republicans. He took the South. I live in North Carolina, so it's just another reminder of why I'm packing my bags. It's gonna be tough for me for a little while 'cause I'm paying rent up here and I'm gonna be paying rent down there, and it's a little tough. But I've just got to tell you, like I believe in science. I believe in logic, and the South doesn't. If you're voting for Donald Trump again, then you don't believe in science. You can't. That's. One thing I've said often, like when it comes to businesses and employers and employees, is that sometimes the business doesn't know what their employees are doing. It doesn't mean the company's bad. They don't know. But if you bring the evidence forward and they defend it, then that means they support that. If police officers doing bad stuff and the department doesn't know about it, it's limited liability in my mind. Kyle Kalinske was talking about, Donald Trump starting another war and the taking out of Soleimani and all that, and that was dangerous and that was irresponsible. And I know that for these rednecks and these crackers, they like that. They like America being an empire. I get it. But what Donald Trump did, it was completely reckless. And when they talk about how he didn't start a war, yeah, it wasn't for lack of trying. That was reckless, and it was wrong, and it was a war crime. And it just reminded me, when the International Criminal Court wanted to investigate United States government activities in Afghanistan and Iraq, and how Trump threatened them and Pence threatened them by name and sanctioned them and stuff. It just reminded me, this is an empire. These are the actions of a irresponsible, reckless empire that does what it wants and operates however it sees fit, regardless of who it's dealing with. And that the International Criminal Court is it's kind of like Copland. Remember Copland with Stallone? Copland was an area in Jersey. That movie probably makes more sense now than it did back in the day. But it's an area in Jersey where all the cops in New York had moved to. They bought land, mafia stuff, and they hired like some dumbass, kind of mentally disabled sheriff. Got to be the sheriff, because you don't want somebody who's actually, sharp. You want somebody that's like, dopey, because he couldn't be a cop in New York. And they would, they made him feel like he was one of them when he wasn't. He's just some guy. The law is seen for the criminals. The law is not supposed to be for the police. Not for us. We do what we want in our little town. That's, to me, what America is with Trump. We don't follow international law, and not to say America ever did, but with Trump, it's kind of like all the secrets have come out, and Trump flouts it. That like, we are a belligerent nation. This is what America is. We are racist, and this is what it is. Like, political violence is okay. Violence against your opponent is okay. All of that, which we already knew about, but he made it more legitimate. Legitimate just means if I say something, if I go out here and I say something in front of 100 people and nobody stops me, then that's legitimate. I'm talking like 100 people that, if I go out here and do that, that means that that's accepted. Ain't nobody stop me. The murder of Soleimani, to me, is kind of similar to the murder of Muammar Gaddafi. It's just showing you that America hasn't really changed. The gay stuff and all that's one thing, but that we're not better than the CIA of the 40s and the 50s. We're not better. These were murders. These were murders of people who weren't harmed. I mean, that's the reason why Iran isn't run by ISIS right now. Why they didn't go that way. I mean, those were murders. What Trump did was murder. Pure and simple. And it was reckless. It was fucking dangerous. And it could have led to a much greater regional war. We don't want that. And it just bothers me when we look at this stuff that this is what America is now. Yeah, this guy was going, from what I understand, Iraq to fucking... And I'm gonna tell you, the way Iran handled it, it was really kind of, it was wise. It was really wise. It's like they know that America's trying to bait them into a war. They've been trying to bait them into a war since George Bush. And they're what the Bible say, to be wise as serpents but harmless as doves. That's kind of how I saw it. Like, wait a minute, they didn't stumble. And then when they had the drone attack come in, they had like a jet, like a passenger jet going there. I think that they shot the drone down. But if they had shot down that jet, America would have been like, oh, see, look, they're terrorists. They didn't do that. I think Trump really showed the world how wicked this country really is, how wicked this country's mechanisms really are, and how we really operate. Just this threatening people, but also testing them and teasing them. That's what this country has become under Trump. Well, it already was, but that's what he showed the world, and the people that like him like that particular manner of politics. Once again, I said this from years ago when he first got elected, that the things Trump says and the moves he's making would cost lives, a lot of them, and he knew that. He knows that. Whether it's COVID, whether it was the Charlottesville thing where they killed Heather Heyer, whether it's climate change, whether it's assassinations, political assassinations, it's irrelevant. It's completely, and then it's like America does that, and America doesn't expect consequences. Like, how do you go and how do you kill a foreign officer on his country's business and not expect consequences as Americans? Trump made those soldiers' life. He put them in danger. I mean, I get it, because when you live with that empire thinking that we're Americans and if you step on our toe, we'll drop a nuke on you. I get it. I'm not gonna spend no time with that type of fucking bullshit ass attitude. But what he did was dangerous, and it could have gotten a lot worse. And I'm glad to see that the government, the administrative bodies of the government, came together to block funding for the Iran conflict go any further. I didn't support the Iraq war. Didn't support the war in Afghanistan. Didn't support the assassination of Muammar Gaddafi. Didn't support the assassination of this recent guy, Soleimani, the Iranian general. Didn't support what happened at Benghazi. Just after a while, looking at what America does, and a lot of Americans support it, it's hard to look at the American flag. Not because you hate this country, but because you realize that this is what America does now. And that to be an American means you have to support this mindless bullshit, which happens all the time. And it's deeply frustrating to see this and be like, hey man, we shouldn't be doing this. Hey man, they shouldn't be doing that. This is not right. This is wrong. It gets tiring to see this stuff day in and day out. And Trump took that energy and ran with it. He did. So he took that reckless empire energy and just ran with it. And I want to add something to that. I'm gonna add something to that. I've just spoke to you about foreign conflicts that America's been in for the last 20 years on the basis of a lie, many of them. And how, I thought that was wrong. I believe this is wrong. Now, looking at how many folks voted for Donald Trump, it's kind of, it gives me pause. I spoke earlier about how for organizations to know what their employees are doing, they have limited liability. Well, Americans, you guys know what Trump has been doing. Going back to what's that dude, Ted Cruz, talking about his dad killed JFK and making jokes about his wife and stuff. That was wrong. Not a Republican, but that was wrong. And it I guess it's just like Republicans now. It is like a fascist cult. It is like no matter what Trump says, there is no consequences. There is no repercussions. There is no, hey man, that wasn't funny. Hey man, you shouldn't make fun of that woman. There is none of that anymore. The Republican Party is like basically like, fuck it, anybody can get it anytime. That's sick, but that's also kind of sad. Because if I can't get you to hold your guy responsible when it comes to your own party, to respect his own party, I know he won't respect me, because I know what I represent. Just by virtue of this, I know what I represent. Look, I don't think there is any good outcome to Donald Trump if he did get reelected. Hopefully he doesn't. There's no good outcome. I think you'll get a federal Gestapo force. I mean, I guess the good thing is Trump wants to fire everybody. He wants to fire William Barr. He wants to follow like the woman that runs the CIA. That's the good thing. Like with Trump doing this stuff, he gets fanatics, and fanatics aren't very good at what they do. That's what I've seen with Jared Kushner and all that. They're not very sophisticated with what they do. So that would be, I guess, the good thing is that he shoots himself in the leg in essence. But I think the violence we could get around Trump getting reelected a second term would be very ugly. Seems like so much of his whole rhetoric is like legitimizing discrimination gay people. This stuff they're having now, talking about Mexican women at the border giving unnecessary hysterectomies, and before they get investigated, they get released back to their own country and stuff like that. So much of what Trump's rhetoric is, and then his supporters is legitimizing it. Like this is normal. This is Gestapo force kidnapping people. This is normal. They're letting 200,000 folks die of a pandemic.